So, we're going to talk about Joker now for just a little bit. Tyler hasn't seen Joker. We are giving him the choice to bow out and
We
avoid
we,
the
we
spoilers.
care about spoiler-free content for everybody.
We do.
Everybody.
Except my content. Nobody cares about what I watch, so it's great. I can
That's
spoil
not
it for
true.
as much as want.
I did not let you spoil Demon Slayer. So, actually, before you leave, we could do like a spoiler-free Joker, like a spoiler-free review. It's a new movie, so it's good to do those anyways.
Is it new? It's been out for like 2 weeks now, hasn't it?
That's new. Also,
That's enough time to do non-spoiler free reviews.
I mean, we're going to after you leave. Don't worry.
Nah, you can go
Don't
ahead.
get me wrong.
I'm not gonna watch Joker.
You could just sit around then and just watch us talk about weird shit.
I will sit around and talk with y'all about some weird shit.
Okay.
And then your boy's got to get his slices too.
He's got to get his slices. He's got some Destiny 2 to play.
All right.
Oh no, I got some food to get.
Bradley,
Yes,
what were your thoughts on Joker?
I think the first thing that Willer and I said as we were, we watched the movie, we went and peed as we collected our thoughts. We were walking out of the theater, and I think the first thing both of us said was, it was a good movie. It wasn't a great movie.
Yeah, and I still hold that.
Yeah. Now that I've had time to digest it more, I'm gonna hold pretty firm on it. But why?
In fact, I might be slightly more negative on it. I don't know. It's hard to tell. In general, one thing you gotta know if you're gonna watch Joker is that it's a really bleak and dark movie, I would say.
Yeah, and I do it like it's, and this is coming from someone who I really love a lot of really dark and bleak stories, but
Me too.
there kind of has to be a light at the end of that dark tunnel.
Or even if it's a story where the villains win,
Yeah,
the heroes, there needs to be heroes to counteract either their ideals and get like a moral victory in or something like that. Like,
yeah. Like, I do think there is a dim light at the end of Joker's dark tunnel. I do think there are some positive like messages and social commentary you can get out of the movie, but it's just not enough for this to be not totally depressing.
and I think part of it is that in the end of the day, Joker is captured, but he kind of wins. He starts a big revolution.
Yeah.
Now, it's hard to, one thing also, it's hard to say what's real and what's not in this movie. So, hard to say how much of that revolution was real. I'm going to go ahead and say that aside from him getting like the car colliding with the police car, the riots were real,
Yeah.
And they did indeed lead to the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing about this movie, and it's something I did really like about this movie, even though I'm not sure what kind of effects it took for other people. There's a lot of events in this movie that are shown to you that do not actually happen.
I think that's kind of cheap sometimes. I don't know. It depends. Like,
I don't know. I really like it. I think I feel like pretty much everybody who watched this to some degree got something different out of it, and for what I got out of it, I think I really needed those sequences to drive home the fact that like Joker he's not woke, he is crazy. He is a crazy
we do
psychotic.
not live in a society.
Is it like American Psycho sequences?
Only Joe has watched that, and he's dead, as you'll recall.
Oh man, y'all need go
I
watch
know.
American Psycho.
I will. I'm
American
going to.
Psycho cast next week.
No, Joe already talked about it. So the thing with that is, it's more like Fight Club. You know how I'm sure you've seen Fight
I
Club.
think that's pretty apt.
Wait, we can't.
Oh,
talk
you're
about
right.
that.
I'm
Yeah.
going. Whatever, dude. Who's gonna stop me? Fucking Ed Norton.
He's gonna bust into your apartment right now.
Ed Norton's bitch ass isn't gonna do anything.
YouTube shuts down our podcast. We broke the only rule.
It's like that. because there are certain sequences that are happening, but they're not really real. There's not that much that is like blatant though, but there is one scene in particular where I think they drove it home too hard, where he walks into the girl's apartment that he's been seeing the whole movie, and he's been dating her. And it's kind of weird because it's like they don't really have much of a connection. This feels like a really forced romance. And it was all in his head. And it's really well told because he busts into her apartment and she walks out and she's like, "Oh, your name is Arthur, right? You live down the hall." That's all she needed to say to really drive it home.
Yeah.
But then they play a bunch of flashbacks of when she was there, and then, oh, she wasn't actually there. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
I get it.
I feel like they were spelling it out too much because I think at that point in the movie, if you didn't already know, you weren't paying attention.
Also, her giveaway, like, oh, your name is Arthur, right? Like, and usually I don't complain about stuff like this, but it felt a little too blatant. What did you think about Joaquin Phoenix's Joker?
Um, Going into this, I was really optimistic about it, and I really did like his Joker. Actually, I'd probably put it as like my third favorite Joker of all time. I really like him.
I think we
And
had the same ranking, actually.
yeah, and maybe that will maybe that'll adjust or fade over time. I did really like him, and I think he could have shined even harder with a better script. I think he did the best he could with what he was given.
Or if
That's
he
my
had like a foil like a Batman. And while I get this is a Joker movie, um, my favorite Joker stories have him squarely trying to fuck with Batman, which is stuff like The Dark Knight or
The Last Laugh.
The Last Laugh. That's the one. No, I'm thinking of Killing Joke, where he
The Killing Joke.
Yeah. Stuff like Arkham Knight, where Joker is a hallucination you see the entire game, and that's probably my favorite exploration of Batman and the Joker's relationship to one another. Really good game. Maybe one day Bradley will play it.
I think I talked about this to some degree where there are other stories out there that try to give us like the perspective of a villain that people have known for a really long time. But I think one thing I said the night we watched this, like when I was collecting my thoughts about the movie, is that the conclusion I've come to is that the Joker exists to be the villain, and make like I don't know. I think a story in which he's not explicitly that just feels so just weird to me.
Yeah, and I think part of it is also exasperated. I think that's not the word.
Exacerbated.
Is baited. There you go. By the fact that Thomas Wayne was kind of a dick, and to be fair, he had a lot of reasons to be mad at Arthur. He fucking stuck his fingers in his son's mouth and is accosting him in a bathroom. But also in the news, he just was portrayed like one of those politicians that you can't trust.
Yeah, and like for all those people who are gonna come in here like, oh well, Thomas Wayne isn't always a nice guy. He's been a dick in other comics, but
yeah,
like he was.
Those comics have Batman.
He had pretty much no redeeming, like humanitarian qualities in this incarnation.
Even in the stories where Thomas Wayne is negative, it's really usually about how Batman comes to terms with that. Yeah. And builds his own moral compass based around that. This story has no really good guy. The closest thing would be Murray, and he kind of has like a moral debate with Joker in the climax of the movie, which I thought was pretty good. But also, Murray is not even like the best person because he brings out this guy's video to make fun of him, which, by the way, Screen Rant, who does the pitch meetings, they were like, oh, how do they record that in the 80s? Like, they don't have camcorders back then. But anyways, yeah, like, Murray was using Arthur for laughs, and he was letting him talk on the TV for views, So like he kind of fed into his ego there at the end. So even he's like not a very clean cut good guy in the situation.
Yeah, and like one of my favorite parts of the movie is that final talk, and I imagine we'll talk
Yeah,
a little
for
bit more
sure.
about it in a second. But the part of that talk that's relevant to what we're saying right now about how we kind of need a good guy in the movie is one big part of Joker and Murray's debate is Joker has pretty much at this point just forsaken the world. He's like, there's no one on my side. Like, no one's gonna help me. You can't trust anyone. And Murray, he shuts him down. Like, I wouldn't
Yeah.
say shuts him down,
I
but he
thought he
just
had a pretty good debate.
yeah, he disagrees immediately. He's like, no. He's like maybe there's a lot of shitty people, but there are good people in the world out there. Like, you're wrong. There are good people in the world. And I feel like if the movie wants to drive this point home, we needed maybe one more good person.
Shit, man. Yeah, I can't think of a good person because even the mom was a terrible person.
Yeah. I
The
think if we just
girlfriend never really existed.
yeah, like if we just had one more of these good people that Marie's talking about, I think it would make that argument much more compelling because I do I on some level I agree with both Joker and
Yeah,
Murray some of the points they make in the conversation.
yeah. We
And
do
I'm
live in a society.
yeah, I'm wholeheartedly on Murray's side when he says there are good people in the world, but in the context of this movie,
It's hard to see that.
there aren't really good people.
Likewise, I thought it was a little hard to see the corruption of Gotham because the movie has a lot of stereotypical, like, Joker gets bullied, rich people accosting women on the train.
Yeah, it's not really the corruption of Gotham. It's just a few people being dicks to Joker.
The health service lady, they run out of funding, so she can't help him anymore. I think that's the closest. But it's like it's all so abstract and generic. It's just like, oh, bad things are happening to Joker, and all of society is mad, and we could see some riots, but we don't really see if that's his main character motivation. Pretty much, is just the society has treated him badly. I feel like they could have picked better examples and better written examples than just some kids literally yelling "beat him up" and taking his sign, or some guy singing clown songs at him after they try to like assault a woman. Like it was just the first third of the movie. The script was very by the numbers, I think.
Yeah, I think on the other side of kind of the debate here, if I want to give points to Joker, both the movie and the character, as far as like kind of a good social message it's putting out there, it kind of has to do with one of the points Joker makes, where he, to some degree, he got to the point he did because society. Who we live in a society. He kind of got to the point he did because a lot of society doesn't know how to deal with people who have these kinds of mental disabilities.
Yeah, I think that was the strongest point.
Yeah,
As well.
and I don't think that like there's Joker's point of view is kind of that like, oh, because they didn't know how to deal with me and they treated me this way, they deserve what they get. And I don't think that's the case. I think like no one deserves to get killed because Joker was mistreated by society, but I do think that people need to be conscious of how they treat each other because it's that short-sightedness that made him become the person he is.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Please
Yes.
shoot.
So, based off of what you're talking about, there's these hallucination sequences throughout,
Yes.
like, the movie. Now, in several other Joker and Batman films, there does show a lot of corrupt sides to Gotham,
Yes.
and that's like kind of always been Joker's MO, is to expose.
And exploit.
Yeah.
Here's the thing:
Is-
there's not really organized crime in this one, but yeah.
Is it possible that that's like these bad things that happened to Joker, were they hallucinations?
That's a good point.
Because there are people in society who do just see as everything is bad is happening to them.
They
Yeah,
view
absolutely.
victimization where there is none.
And you know, he's going like that's Harley Quinn's character. She is his psychologist,
Hmm.
and that's like his power is supermania. I think that's it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think
and,
that's an interesting read on it. There could be some scenes that could be interpreted that way. I think. Like
and
maybe the train scene was not like the dudes even started singing, right? And I feel like that was a tell to that some of that was not quite real. They're not going to be singing as they approach him. So you might be onto something.
just trying to look a little deeper. I'm listening. I'm
Yeah.
paying.
I really I there's a lot of bad things I can say about this movie. I actually really like the aspect where there are things presented as if they're actually happening that are not actually happening.
One of my favorites is the very first time we really see it with Murray, where he pictures himself at the Murray show.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way because like I think that's the most it's the first time we see that type of thing happen, and it's probably one of the most blatantly obvious cases of this is not actually happening. So I think that was a really good use to put it in the viewer's mind that okay, not everything we're going to see is necessarily real.
As a double purpose, it was just a very clean way to show how he views Murray.
Oh yeah.
Even though he kind of goes up there and like explicitly says it, even before that, it's like, oh, he watches this every night and he dreams about the day he's going to be on that stage and get the validation from Murray.
Yeah.
And full circle at the end of the movie when he's dancing in front of the curtains, it's his time to go on. So as much as I've been saying like, oh man, this is a really dark and drab movie, and while that might not be exactly my bag, I think it's also extremely refreshing that it's that kind of movie without a hero. So that's why I don't really knock it that hard for that, even if it's not necessarily my taste. I feel like it's such a important movie, and as a comic book movie, it's even more important actually, because it's just a film with a comic book tint on it, and we've had so many formulaic comic book movies, and like they're not bad, but it's cool that we're branching off in this way.
Yeah. That's what I really liked. I would really like to see more movies that I want to see more movies where they're not setting out to make a superhero movie. They are making a movie that just so happens to
Be about superheroes.
yeah feature content from one of those stories.
Yeah, definitely.
That might segue into what we should maybe watch next on Hulu.
Oh fuck!
Or is it an Amazon original? Oh, it's an Amazon original.
The Boys.
Yeah, The Boys.
I've talked about The Boys in this podcast.
Oh, did I miss The Boys talk?
I only talked about the first 3 episodes.
Tyler, have you watched The Boys?
I could watch The Boys.
You
I
should
have
watch
not.
The Boys.
I have not yet. I'm really hesitant to.
I watched 3 episodes of The Boys, and I every time I try to start the 4th one, it starts with a sex scene with a character I don't give a shit about, and then I'm not even like mad that I'm seeing him have sex or anything. I'm just like, wait, I don't care that they're about to try to introduce a love plot to this character. And I step back, I was like, wait, I don't care about any of the characters. So that's where I was with that. But if you want to dive in, I'd love to get your opinions. I might go back on if you end up liking the like latter half.
Brad, I present you with a choice. Would you rather watch The Boys or the Chimera Ant arc of Hunter?
That would be
Hunter?
a hard yes on the Chimera Ant arc. I think the number one thing that's turning me off for The Boys is that we kind of talked about something being bleak without a purpose. Like there has if it's going to be dark, there has to be a reason for it. There has to be a light at the end of the tunnel. And pretty much everything I've ever heard about The Boys is that like there's just no goodness in the world.
There's explicitly
like,
no lights.
if someone's bad, it's not even necessarily that they're doing something bad for a good reason. They're just a terrible person.
That
and I
being
don't know.
said, the Superman character in The Boys is fucking fantastic. The actor does so good. His name's Homelander. You can totally understand why he's a fucking freak of nature.
I've seen one GIF of The Boys, and it's this sequence where this guy is making out with his girlfriend.
Nope, I know what you're talking about. We're done.
That's all I've seen of the show.
That I saw that clip. It's after where I've watched it because I just didn't care at the time. And you know what? We're good. Do we have any final thoughts on Joker?
This isn't a movie where I would tell people like, "Oh my God, you haven't seen Joker, you have to go see it." But if someone said, "Hey, I'm interested in Joker, should I go see it?" I'm like, you know what? If you're interested in it, you should go see it.
All my coworkers have been watching me or have been asking me if they should go watch it, and I always give them like a just prepare your expectations for this kind of film.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had to give one more criticism because it was on my mind, the sequence of him killing those guys and him just going into feeling himself is a little too quick, especially for how slow the movie was moving to that point. Because like after he kills those guys, the descent is very rapid, and I felt like it could have been a little bit more sloped. But aside from that, still really like it. It's probably like a 3 or a 4. It's one of those I need to ruminate on because thematically there's still some good themes. What are you sitting at?
I'm sitting at a 3 out of 5 right now.
I think I'm sitting at a 3 as well. Go watch Joker if any of this sounds interesting. I can definitely see why people would like it though.
Yeah,
For sure.
for sure.
Actually, I guess Tyler, this is where we send you off.
Yeah, this is where I have to go make my space deliveries.
Yeah,
Go
you gotta
get
go.
And
They
I
need
will
those
fade
drugs,
into the
man.
background and slowly fade away and disappear into the night as I drift off into space like that one movie with Sandra Bullock.
Ooh.
Gravity.
Ooh.